Alright, welcome to Coding with BC Brian. We've got this dice object that we've made previously in other videos. It's been modified a bit. Namely, we have a method on the dice that's called add side that allows us to add a new side to the dice. We also are not asking for the number of sides anymore or doing anything with that. We're just getting the initial face values and then doing stuff with them afterwards. So let's add, the point of this video is to make a user interface so that the user can add face, can create a dice, add face values, and roll it to get a new side. We're not going to get any more complex than that, so no removing sides or anything like that, just the basic fundamentals just to see how the front end, the HTML side wires up with the JavaScript so that we have a cohesive environment to allow our users to actually use the objects we're creating. So first we're going to put an input tag. The input tag, we're going to give it an ID that's equal to side input, because this input tag is going to be used to input sides. It's going to be a type. It's going to have an attribute of type that's equal to text, and we're going to have a placeholder that is equal to name of side, and so that's the first one. If we run this, we'll see that we get a name of side input there. Okay, now we're going to add a button. It's going to have an attribute type of button, and it's going to say add. So if we run this, we now have a button to add, and then we're going to add an HR, and we're going to add a div, and this div is going to have an ID equal to dice sides. Okay, so we have an input. We're going to input a name of a side. We're going to click the add button, which is going to utilize this add side functionality to add the side, and then we have this ID, this div with an ID of dice sides that's going to list out all of the sides based on that functionality. So first of all, what we need to do on the JavaScript side is, now we have this object, is create a var user dice, which will be a new instance of dice, and we don't have to pass in anything. And since we're not passing in anything, face values will be evaluated to nothing, and this is a really cool if statement. It's called some type of operator. I can never remember the name, but basically it's a shorthand if statement. So if this is true, do this value. If this is false, do the value after the colons. And so in this case, it's going to be false, because undefined will evaluate to false as we've seen in previous videos, and give us an empty array to use, and that's fine. We could also send it an empty array. We could send it a set of sides already to utilize. But here we go. So that's creating that. Now we need to hook up this add button to the dice.add side. So what we're going to do is do an on click. So when this button is clicked, we're going to run a function called add side. Let's call it user add side, just to give us a little bit different perspective there. So we're going to go var user add side equals function. Okay, so this function is going to run, and what do we want it to do? Well, we need to get the value from the input. So let's grab the input. So the way we're going to grab the input is go var side input. So this is a new variable we're creating. It's going to be equal to document. Okay, document is an object, and it's referencing this document over here, the document object model, or the DOM. So this is the document object model, or DOM, and this is what we're referencing. It's the stuff that's being printed out over here, or this stuff in here. Okay. It has a method called getElementById. And all we have to do is supply an ID in here. So we're going to say side input, and now side input, this variable will be this side input that we've got here. Now, what do we want from that side input? We want its value. And we want to push that, we want to add that value to the add side. So we're going to do user dice dot add side, and we're going to say side input, which is now an object that got returned. It has a key that's called value, which is storing the value that I type inside the input box.